Should I keep going or stop?
Jeez, wow. Okay. Well, I think
Yeah, I told you you might have to yell at me.
that was uh that was a masterclass in and of itself. I don't even know some of the things that I just saw then.
Oh,
Um, I think uh I think we're in for a treat today, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone who's tuning in. So, welcome to this little session. I'll tell you a bit about why we're here, but first I want to introduce the incredible Brett Garsed, and thank you for playing us in there. How you doing, Brett?
I'm good. Yeah. Excuse me for guzzling coffee. It's early here.
Yeah, Brett's in Australia, so I think with the wrong side of. Oh no, we're now past 7 a.m., right?
Yeah,
Coming up to
that's
it.
pretty normal. So I should
Okay,
be up by
okay,
now anyway.
cool. So, um, as you guys saw, Brett has some pretty interesting little tips and tricks and ideas for slide guitar in standard tuning. And when I first discovered that he knew these things and that he might be interested in doing a book about it, I kind of had to leap at the chance. Because it's some stuff I've never seen before, which is always humbling to come across stuff like that. So today, I want to stress that we're here because we're kind of doing a little bit of bonus content for the book, which means that you guys have the job of feeding us loads of questions and getting all of your like different perspectives and anything that you want to get into uh, done so that we can make sure that when people get the book, they'll get this as a bonus, and we've given them something really cool to go along with it. So, on that note, questions are already coming in. Just any questions you've got for Brett, just whack them in the chat, and I will keep track of them all. So, we've got this book coming out on Thursday, which is Slide Guitar in Standard Tuning, and Brett's kind of gone. I think the transcriber is still recovering from it. I think there's over 160 examples or something ridiculous like that, which
You
I'm
know,
very
one of
thankful
these
for.
days you're going to have to introduce me to your transcriber because I owe them a few meals and a few drinks. I think so.
Well, he says he's going to try and tune in today, so I feel like yeah, you can buy him some meals. I'll pay for his therapy after this.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think he enjoyed the project, which is always good. But there's just so much to get into. There's a lot of really interesting and advanced things in there, and I mean, I don't know if you guys picked up on them, that behind the slide bend pedal steel thing. We'll get into all of that. But I just want to start with some of the basics. We've already got someone asking, like, what made you put it on the second finger? I think, would you be able to tell us a little bit about your journey to slide guitar playing, what got you into it, and what you're trying to do with it?
Yeah, there's a very famous Australian band called Little River Band, and they later become known as LRB. And a fantastic guitar player named Rick Formosa played slide on one of their songs. It was called Every Day of My Life. And I think I saw it when I was about 15. It probably came on one of our local, like a sort of Australian version of Top of the Pops show. And so Rick's playing with a chrome slide. I remember it so vividly. He was playing with a chrome slide on his third finger because I think Rick was a big Lau George fan as well. I'm not sure, but Rick's an amazing guitar player, and I thought, oh, that sounds so great. I've got to get into that. So I went into our local music store, and luckily they had a chrome slide in there, and I brought it home. And of course, it was absolutely disastrous. I mean, you put one of these things on a guitar, let alone a guitar with a little bit of distortion on it, and it just everything goes nuts. I mean, it is such a foreign, alien world when you've had no one give you any guidance whatsoever, and that was the case for me. I just put it on here, and it was awful. I couldn't get anything out of it, and so I kind of just put it away and forgot about it. And then it might have even been about a year later. I was tuned into another Australian music show, and Joe Walsh was on. It was a great live clip of him doing Rocky Mountain Way, and it was where he would when he got to the he played the initial part of the song on a Les Paul, which was obviously an open E, and then he put that one down and went and put another guitar on and did the regular talkbox solo, then put that guitar back down and put the other guitar back on and played slide again. And I just loved that song so much and thought Joe's slide playing was so amazing. I thought I've got to have another crack at this. And I was watching it like a hawk, and of course Joe put it on the second finger. It was complete accident that I just saw Joe do it, and I thought I've got to have another go at this. He put it on that finger. I'm putting it on that finger, and of course the same disastrous results happened. And I was talking to a older friend of mine here in town, and he was a little bit more experienced than me, and he said, no, you got to get a guitar and tune it to a chord. He said, tune it to like open A or open E, so that when you strum all the strings, it sounds like an actual chord. And he said it'll be a lot easier, and you'll have a lot more fun. And so I bought a cheap Les Paul copy, and I tuned it to open E, and that was it. I just started to muck about on that, and my pub band at the time, we did a song, just a blues tune in E, and I got to bash away on some slide and have some fun. And over the course of doing that, I developed more control. You start to develop ways of muting the strings and controlling the strings, and just getting it to stop just screaming its lungs out everywhere. And I realised that it was a lot easier to just carry around this thing than carry around a whole other guitar for one song. And I thought, well, I think I can probably tackle it in regular tuning now. So I went back to it, but the thing I really missed was in open E. You get this beautiful, when you play like when you go straight across, they're the notes you get. You get the notes of an E major chord, and I love this interval. And because Joe does it all over the place in Rocky Mountain Way. Whereas if in standard tuning, of course, if I stick the slide straight across at the 12th fret, like in terms of the key of E, I'm getting a minor third here and the fifth here. And I thought, yeah, well, it's got to be a major third, hasn't it? Otherwise the lick doesn't work. And I just sort of looked at it and thought, I mean, surely it couldn't be that easy, could it? And I just went, problem solved. I went, oh, great, that's it. Let's get on with it then, shall we? I could do the... And it was great. That was it. That was about as far as I went, and I thought, as long as I can do that, I'm a happy guy, because that was the main lick I really wanted to get. But it was just a complete fluke that putting it on this finger, it's really a better idea. Like, I mean, to put it on the third finger, you can see that the angles get worse and worse. So, which is why most people that do wear it like this, they don't really do the angling thing. There's a great slide player from Australia named Dave Hull who puts it on his first finger, actually, and plays everything else like this. But then when Dave plays slide, he goes over the top and plays like lap steel. So just goes to show you there's no rules to it. But, I did this for years. I did this since I was about 17 years old, and people would always remark on it and go, what are you doing with that slide thing, that angling thing? And all the way through my life in America and everything, and up until about 2004, when I finally got on YouTube, when that became a thing. And a mate of mine posted a very old clip of Jeff Beck, and Jeff was doing it. Because I did notice that Jeff Beck was like, there's me, Bonnie Raitt, Jeff Beck, Joe Walsh. I know there's more now, but back then it was very unusual to see someone put the slide on this finger. And I did notice that Jeff Beck did it whenever I'd catch a rare glimpse of him playing slide. And yeah, Jeff was doing, he was doing like a... He was doing that on this. This was a clip from like the late 70s. It was a fantastic song called "Tonight I'll Be Staying Here with You," which is a cover of a Bob Dylan song, and it was off one of my favourite Jeff Beck albums that I was already listening to, but I couldn't see him, so I didn't know he was actually doing it. You know what Jeff Beck's like? You can't tell if he's playing slide or using the whammy bar. He's very tricky like that. So, but yeah, the governor beat me to it. I thought I might have actually invented something, but no, I haven't. So. But anyway, it's just such a useful technique in standard tuning, and no one really does talk about it. Well, a few people talk about it now, but I think that's because they were talking to me first. But who knows? I don't know. But I've expanded upon it with a lot of other ideas. So I figured, well, let's put it in a book and get them all out there. And I'm excited to see what other people might come up with once they get a hold of it.
Me too, especially myself. I can't wait to work through it, because it's always something I've struggled with. And you're right, it does seem so obvious to kind of do some of that stuff, but no one was doing it. And I don't think even knowing that, being able to execute it as accurately as you do is quite a feat. How did you go about like developing that intonation so that you could do all that slanting?
Oh, look, I do talk about it in the book where I say I refer to it as micro adjustments, and it's you constantly have to just be listening and checking
Mm.
where you're at. It's not a perfect art form, but that's mainly because, look, I could just, if I just did nothing else but play slide guitar, and if I had an opportunity where I was able to go out and perhaps jam live with it quite a lot, if I got into a situation where I was in a band and I was improvising 6 nights a week live, then within 2 weeks I'd be a whole different slide player. But that's just not the case these days, and there are other things to get on with. But that's why I was excited about the book, because I thought if someone out there sees this and goes, I'm really going to dive into this and make it my thing, then I'd be really stunned to see what they might come up with. Because like I was saying to you, Luke, like these books that I do for Guitar Vivo, I mean, they're the books I wish I'd had when I was about 16 or 17 years old, and this one especially, because like the day I discovered that was just the beginning of it. It still sounded pretty bad, but at least I was moving forward in a direction that I thought was positive. But to have had this book in front of me and say, yeah, this is how you do it, these are the things to look out for, then, and then throughout the rest of that's where it starts, throughout the rest of the book, then you go down this rabbit hole of all the possibilities. Then boy, it would have within 2 years, by the time I was 19, I would have been an incredible slide player, I'm sure. But took decades to really get it all together and get it. As far as that intonation thing goes, I do mention this in the book, and I personally came up with a sort of. Actually, I'll go to my two cameras. You might see it a bit clearer. You can sort of see how the way my thumb sits here, and this finger kind of pokes out. My hand is kind of locked in that position. I always, being an ex-tradie, a plumber, I referred to it as like a carpenter's jig, where they shove a bit of wood in a jig and the saw always cuts it the same way. So, but once you sort of shove it in that position, you're right in the ballpark. You know what I mean? I might need to still adjust a little bit, but it's pretty close. You know what I mean? So it's like I can sort of with a relative degree of confidence, I can just put my fingers there, my hand there, and I know I'll be right in the ballpark of having that particular interval in tune. So everyone's sort of got to find their own personal position that they feel comfortable in. But my hand is absolutely locked there. My thumb is pressing down on the top of the neck, and it's sort of creating a force against this part of the ball of my hand. So it is pretty much locked in that position. So that's how I kind of got to the stage where I could do this with a degree of accuracy.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so we've got a couple more questions on foundational things, which I think would be great to get through before we start looking at some exercises.
For sure, yeah.
A few just technical questions. Do you have a higher action on that guitar than you normally would have for a guitar that you weren't going to play slide on?
I suppose so. Yeah, I saw this great interview just recently that Rick Beato did with Warren Haynes from the Allman Brothers, and Rick, because Warren plays in standard tuning as well, and Rick said, he said, "How's the action on your guitar?" And he kind of laughed and said, "It's too low for slide and too high for everything else." And I thought, "Oh man, I feel your pain. Like it is a compromise. Like because my mic's open, even while I'm jamming to the tracks, you might even hear me brushing the frets, especially if I'm on that top E string like that. Uh, I wouldn't argue with anybody that big strings and high action for slide is where it's at. Like, I mean, it really just makes the instrument come alive in that regard. And look, and also too, I do want to stress that this is by no means trying to replace open tunings. I mean, it's actually the opposite. I'm trying to steal back some of those sounds that I love in open tunings in standard tuning, because I just want people to realize that with some of these techniques, you can at least get some of those ideas back for yourself in standard tuning. So yeah, it's not like I'm saying, oh, this is the way to go. No playing standard open tunings anymore. Not at all. If you really do want to exclusively play slide, then big strings, high action, and by all means experiment with all the tunings you can get, because it's another universe. It's a beautiful universe to be in. But this is the best compromise I can come up with, where I can still play regular guitar and get away with playing slides. So yeah, it is a compromise, but I walk that fine line.
And just what strings are you using there? Do you know?
10 to 52 Diodarios. I was using 11 to 52 for a long time, and in the end, I just thought, well, there's bending options just in regular playing that I found a bit hard to do with the 11s on the top, the higher gauge up on the top three strings. The bottom gauge is still the same, but I went back, dropped back to the 10s, and I liked it. And especially now that I'm experimenting with this behind the slide bending stuff. Um, yeah, the heavier the strings, the harder it sort of gets. But the 10s seem to be pretty good. I seem to be coping all right with them.
Awesome. And if you were doing that thing of just a guitar for slide, what would you be playing? Do you think you'd go higher than 11s?
Oh yeah, definitely 12s probably. 12s would be great. My good friend Stuart Fraser, who I
Hmm.
used to play with in the John Farnham band a lot. Stuart used to play 12 gauge strings just normally. Like he would play a set of 12s on his electric in standard tuning and in regular tuning, and he played them like they were 10s. He just had the grip of death. I mean, he had the strength to do that. And there's another fantastic slide player here in Australia, Danny Spencer, who plays a lot with a really great artist here named Jimmy Barnes. And Danny is a beautiful slide player, and he plays 12s as well. So I mean, I think my hands would give out if I tried that. So it's important to just be aware of what your capabilities are and also what you might be trying to do as well. Like I mean, I am a legato player, so I mean there is that whole other side to my playing universe that I need to be aware of. I'm not I'm not a straight blues player. Put it that way. You know, I want to go for things that are a little more extreme than that. So I have to be aware of that. The lighter gauge suits both worlds.
Gotcha. Okay, so the other question that's come up on Zoom and YouTube is about muting. So what you're doing with the right hand and the left hand to mute. And someone's asked specifically if you're resting the pick on strings to mute and what's happening there.
Yeah, muting is the great. It's a great mystery, but it's a personal journey. Like I mean, and that depends on whether you choose to play with a pick or if you'd rather just play with your fingers, like a lot of side players do. Like Derek Trucks, for example, and Derek's just the first one that comes to mind. But a lot of people when they play slide, I was watching Ry Cooder the other night, and Ry was just playing. I don't think he was using a pick at all. So uh, I think I've noticed Derek when he's playing, like if he's using the top strings, I think his thumb actually just rests across the bottom strings. I could be wrong, but I'd seem to recall seeing that. Whereas for me, it's coming from the heel of my right hand, and so if I'm on that high E string, I'm just I'm trying to mute with the heel of my right hand, but also with this guy here, this this finger here that trails behind the slide. You'll notice whenever anyone, whatever, regardless of whatever finger they have it on, there's always fingers that do trail behind the slide, and they tend to help in the muting process. The only thing is when I do the angling thing, you lose that. So it's just something to be aware of. It's another challenge to it, I guess. But but yeah, that's it is. It's pretty much like by any means necessary, keep things quiet. And as I if I move to the second string, say, then the heel stays there. The heel's hang on, I should be on my other cameras. I'm sorry. The heel's still there like that. That's much better. You can see that now. And then one of the other right hand fingers will try and keep the top string quiet. So it'll be sort of like a. And then as I move across, other right hand fingers will join in. And of course, by the time I go beyond that fourth string, I'm out of fingers here. So then it kind of just becomes the job of this finger that's trailing. So if I'm on these low strings, so as I move to this string, you'll see the heel of the hand comes into play. It's a really delicate sort of dance of trying to keep everything quiet as you go along, and yeah, sometimes I've gone to play a note and I've actually muted it by accident. So it's not an exact science. It's the sort of thing where you've got to really do it a lot, and don't mind finding your own way with it. Experiment as much as you possibly can. There's no hard and fast rules that I'm offering anybody here. They're just guidelines. So yeah, it requires a lot of personal exploration. This all does really.
Cool. The next question we've got is maybe jumping ahead a bit. Someone's asked about that bending behind the slide thing. Could you talk us through that really quickly?
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. That's Look, it was just all this stuff is about problem solving. Really, it's like, oh, I'd like to hear this kind of sound, and how do I do that? Like, is there a way to do that? And I really loved the sound of the B bender. You know, like when people have the B bender attachment on their guitars that either attaches here to the uh, to the strap holder, or it's a mechanism back here, or it's a lever that pushes, and it'll usually they raise like the B string a half step, and sometimes the G string a whole step, so they can get these kind of sounds where it's like a, and you get that, and they do it by pulling down on the neck, and I really, I'll go to my where is it? My pedal steel thingy here, and I'll go back to the two cameras. Maybe you can see it better here. But if I a little bit of reverb on it, and you get that where am I? I loved, because I can sort of simulate it if I go. So you get the two notes, you get the two and the sus4, so and I can get it to a degree if I'm here. If I do, it's hard to get it really accurate though, and of course it's a bit limiting because I can't do that down here, and I can't go any higher than about, even up here it's too awkward. Whereas here it opens it up so I can. I love this one if I can. That's a great one. That's the beautiful part of it, is if you want to really get that sort of pedal steel thing, is drag that. That way, you're capitalizing on the fact that you're doing it with a slide, so you've got that option to really drag the notes around. I absolutely love pedal steel, so it was all part of wanting to mimic that, which is why people have B benders as well, to get that great pedal steel thing.
Could you show us that last one again? But could you break down the strings you're playing, the notes you're playing?
Yeah, I'm mainly focusing on the second string and the third string. So once you're there, you've got the root and the third, major third. So you can either go for a sus4 sort of thing, and then if you move to the next group of strings, you get the fifth and the tonic, the fifth and the root. So then you can go for like an add two sort of, and it's a really, and then you slide up to. And then here you can get. It's a really great effect. Like it's actually something I haven't been doing for that long. And I mean I could I could invest 2 hours a day in just this and work on getting better at it. So, but boy, it's so much fun. Like I said, I just absolutely love pedal steel, and any opportunity I have to try and mimic it. I've actually done sessions where, for people where they've asked me to just try and mimic pedal steel for them. They said, "You play slide? We like to hear pedal steel on it." And I've had so much fun doing it, and they've enjoyed it so much when they heard it. They thought, well, it's doing the job, you know. It's like it's basically giving us the sound of pedal steel when I don't know any pedal steel players, so it's kind of one of those little get out of jail free cards, if you like, you know.
Yeah, we've got people commenting. Wayne says that's beautiful. Yeah, that's
It's
it's hauntingly
when you
close.
add that nice long reverb to it, you can really get into it. It's so much fun. So.
And we have had someone ask about that. So compression, delay. What are you using to help create your slide sound?
Uh, well, actually, the regular slide sound I've got here is there's no compression or anything like that. I've got a little bit of delay on here, but that's just a bit of a personal preference. I like a little bit of delay sometimes. You hear it a lot when I'm just playing on my own, but when I play, it kind of just blends into the track. It's not too. I don't think it's too intrusive, but when I'm doing the pedal steel thing, I'd like to turn the delay off because it gets in the way of the articulation of the notes. But now when I do the pedal steel sound, I have a lot of compression on it because it gives it that kind of sound, like that real square wave that's the thing with pedal steels, isn't it? Like they're huge strings. I mean, you see when the pedal steel players actually bounce the slide off the strings. Like, I mean, I've seen pedal steels and actually touched them, but I wouldn't know the first thing about actually playing one. But yeah, they've just got that incredibly resonant sound. So I'm just trying to mimic that and using a lot of compression to try and get it. But it's just regular guitar. Like, I mean, I don't actually like to use compression on my regular guitar sounds. So with the slide, I mean, once you put a metal or a glass slide on a distorted electric guitar, those notes just want to go nuts. I mean, I don't even need to use as much gain. Like, my volume is on about 7 when I play slide. So on my guitar, I kind of wind it back a bit because it really brings the notes out. I mean, you don't have to use a lot of distortion or sustain. When you hear that classic blues slide sound where people often get like a fuzz tone sort of sound, and I guess it came from that beautiful blues sound that the original blues players got when they had old amplifiers that they just crank up and they would completely fuzz out, and it just became the sound we all fell in love with, and it's such a great thing. I think I've got a fuzz on this. Yeah, there's a fuzz face on this particular preset here because I was using it on a song I was working on yesterday, and it's just got that. It's just got a bit more dirt to it. So, oh look, I should just talking about the basics. I should talk about the vibrato because the one thing that always frustrated the life out of me with slide playing was getting control of my vibrato because I always had this really nervous sort of. It just didn't have any flow to it, like because I love Rory Gallagher. I should say Gallagher. That's the proper way to say his name. And I love Rory Gallagher, and Rory had the greatest slide vibrato. It was just this real. He just really would rip into it. I just. And I used to have to use the whammy bar to try and get it to sound like that. But the key, I'll see if I can get an angle on my bottom camera here if I turn like that. When I'm just playing regularly, my thumb just kind of follows along behind the neck. And then when I stop and want a vibrato a note, I actually apply a bit of pressure with the thumb and pivot against it. So then the slide moves. So it's not like I'm moving the whole hand when I do vibrato. The thumb stays there and applies pressure. and it gives me so much control. It was quite life changing when I found that. It was all of a sudden I had control over the vibrato, how wide it was. Like if it was a faster, wide, you know. So that was a revelation for me. All of a sudden, everything changed, and it was just brilliant. That really sorted out a lot of problems I had with vibrato. So I just wanted to make sure we touched on that if we're talking about basics like muting and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. That was great. That yeah, that Rory vibrato is incredible.
And Rory used to play in standard too. Like
Mhm.
sometimes he normally switched to a Fender Telecaster that I think was in open A tuning, and he'd capo it sometimes, and he would play slide on that a lot. But he would also just play on his beautiful old beat up Strat. He would just pick up the slide and play slide on that in standard tuning, no problem. So yeah, a lot of people do play in standard. I've just never seen anyone really go down the rabbit hole of the angling thing. Uh, because I just started coming up with more and more ideas, and I thought, well, yeah, I'll just put them all out there, and if some person with more time on their hands than me grabs hold of it, we could see some people doing some pretty wild stuff in the future. I hope so.
That's definitely something to look forward to. We've got one last question on the basics, which is how important. Oh, and it's kind of just come through on Zoom as well. How important is the thickness and the length of the slide and the material, glass, chrome, steel, brass, all that kind of stuff? How important is that to you, and what have you decided on?
Um, yeah, that's a very pertinent question. This is a Dunlop 211 glass slide, and the reason I chose it is because it's quite. I'll see. I'll go back to my two camera. I think I should just stay on the two cameras, shouldn't I? It's quite thick, as you can see. It's quite a dense sort of a slide, but the so it gives the note a fair bit of mass, if you like. But it's light. It's a lot lighter than say a chrome slide. So it's lightweight, which for a person like me playing lighter strings with a lower action, that matters a little bit because I don't want the slide to go bashing around on the strings. But I also like it because it fits really tight on my finger and stops there at the knuckle on my second finger. And that's because I need the reach. I need to get some because I start to do triads. It's like if I go, and then when I get into the octaves and I need the extra reach. I can't have it where it comes all the way. If it came all the way down to here, then I wouldn't be able to get the extra distance. This is the big problem with. I actually I've got a chrome slide here. Yeah, I actually. Oh, my studio desk is so messy. I can't believe it. You can sort of see the chrome slide is just a little bit. Where am I? I'd never make it on Talkback TV. Camera two, camera two. Yeah, you can see the chrome slide's a little bit shorter, and I actually do like the sound of the chrome. The glass does tend to squeak a little bit when I play it sometimes if I'm. Whereas to me, the chrome doesn't really do that. I actually do like the sound of the chrome, and um, but uh, but I just haven't been able to find one that's as long as the glass slide. And I don't know if you've ever seen Paul Gilbert doing the slide thing where he, because Paul's playing a lot of slide these days, and he's got a magnet on his guitar, and he just puts the chrome slide on there like that, and he can grab it so quickly. It's fantastic. If I could find a chrome slide the same length and suitability as this glass slide, I would be emailing Paul saying, "What kind of magnet do you use?" Because I think it's a brilliant idea. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
That's a great
But I
answer.
should mention too, brass slides sound fantastic on acoustic guitars. They sound much better than chrome and glass to my ears anyway, because they bring out that scrape, that real. If you use them on electric, you'll get a lot more noise from the slide. But if that's what you're looking for, if you want that real down home sort of bluesy sound, then yeah, that the texture of the material does matter. I've used porcelain slides and all sorts of things, and they're all great. You just got to watch out for these guys because if you drop them, they'll break. You know, if on concrete or anything like that, you've lost your slides. So I always carry a backup chrome one with me just in case.
Awesome. Cool. So we've kind of covered the foundations. I think the next thing to go down is maybe where you would start people that are new to slide. What would you, well, how would you guide them into to getting the language down, and what kind of licks or exercises would you turn them on to?
Well, I guess look, the first and most important thing is getting familiar with the intonation. Like that's why in the book I start off by saying go right over the top of the fret. These are all things I had to figure out by myself. There was no instructional material around in the late '70s when I started trying to do this, and no one to ask. No one in my town for a 100-mile radius played slide guitar. I think I was the only person I'd ever seen that ever tried to have, even dared to have a go at it. And I quickly figured out that if you know, you get that note because it's hitting that fret. But if you play in between the frets like you will with your finger, it's out of tune. And I went, oh, okay, you got to go right over the fret. And I sat there and went, well, of course, because that's where the string presses down on, is that fret, and that's what gives you the pitch. So that was the first big lesson I learned, and that is probably the most important thing to work on. Like in the book, I did a thing with a drone note, and I put the backing track available in the book, and it's just an E drone, and I would say that's a fantastic thing to work with because and just start on one string, and get used to trying to find the pitch. So just start with it just goes like this, and just here you got to just adjust a little bit to get the right note. If you start with notes like the root and a fifth like that, then it's really easy to tell when you're right up the middle of the pitch because there'll be no dissonance at all. And just explore. Once you get up there, if you're hearing like that little bit of dissonance, like if I'm going up, if I'm here, you hear the dissonance, right? And then gradually, if you just micro adjust, it goes away, and it means you're right up the middle of the pitch. And that sounds like I'm talking about cricket, doesn't it? You're right up the middle of the pitch, but it's like when musicians talk about playing right up the centre of the beat. And sorry, I keep turning my heater on and off. It's freezing cold here in winter time here. It's like when people talk about musicians that play right up the centre of the beat rather than behind it or in front of it. And I think with slide players, whenever I listen to all the great slide players, there's just not even a question about the tuning. They're always right up the middle of it, and it's so beautiful once you get it. Like that's the most fundamental thing to work on, I would say. The very first thing to work on is developing your ear and your sense of where to place the slide over the top of the fret to get right up the center of your tuning.
Nice. I suppose the next thing is then to look at maybe someone who has played in altered, well, open tunings.
Right,
What are the
right.
other kind of things that you've done to approximate that sound? So could you maybe explore some more of the angling stuff beyond um, what you've already shown us?
Yeah, well, the first thing about the standard tuning is to recognise that you've got some options there just with straight across without even angling anything, and that's if you want to play a major triad, then you look at these three strings, the second, third, and fourth, and your tonic or your root will be on the third string. So if you want a G major triad, put that up, put your G on that third string, and then you've got the fifth, tonic, and the major third. So there, and All your major triads are very easy to find on those 3 strings right there. And then if you look on the top 3 strings, the first, second, and third, you've got your minor triads. So you put the tonic on the root on the first string, and there, so if you play an A here and go, you'll get the root, the fifth, and the minor third. So there's your minor triads. You go like, oh, I want a D minor, find the D. And there's other little tricks too, where you can play like a sus4 triad would be found on the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings. So say if you wanted a D sus, you would put the tonic on the 4th string, so you get the root and the 5th, and then the sus4. Then you go down to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings, and you get the resolution. So you can get just little tricks like that, which help you to sort of simulate some sounds that you'd probably find a little easier in an open tuning. So that's just the stuff you can find, and then of course the fourths. You know, like you want to play like a real heavy sounding low D. You get. It's like when I first started doing this, I always loved "In My Time of Dying" by Led Zeppelin. I don't know if anyone knows that song out there, but I couldn't play it in A, of course, because I didn't have a guitar tuned to open A like Jimmy Page did, and I was always playing it in G, like a. But what I missed was the fact that he doesn't slide up to. His triad is. It's got the, and of course it's in A. So of course what I did was it's just another one of those things where, is there a way I can get out of it, or at least simulate part of that open tuning sound? So that's the stuff that you find in just without angling the slide. And then once you start going down the rabbit hole of angling it, then stuff just gets really interesting. So we started off with that's the place to start, would be that, just like major third and the fifth, like a. Getting used to doing that, I think, pulling that third up so it's in tune, like. And then the other really big revelation for me was I started to think, well, can I play fifths? Could I do that? I was trying to get these two guys in tuning. I was trying to get the 2nd string and the 4th string, which is the root is here on the E and then a B. So I finally got those in tune, and then I accidentally hit the 3rd string, and I got the most beautiful in tune major triad, which was another revelation. I went, oh, this is great, like. That was a groundbreaker, that one. I just loved that. I love the fact that I could now get that. That's when I decided I could play In My Time of Dying a little more authentically in standard tuning, because I was able to get that. The only thing with the angling thing is, I sort of say this in the book, that it requires a little bit of geometry, because as you go further down the neck, the angles will get steeper, and as you come up the neck, they start to shallow out. So that's where the tuning issue starts to come in. But you know, that, like I said, it's all about like micro adjustments. Like I said, you got to just adjust and move as you go along. So once I found okay, so I've got the root and the third and the fifth, and then a full triad. And then I thought, well, I'll play the third and the tonic. So now, see, this is a slightly shallower angle. I have to sort of remind myself that. So that was I like that sound a lot, because then you can sort of get that whole. Little bit of Hawaiian action going on. So yeah, that was a great one. I'm moving pretty quickly here, but we can always go back and talk about things more specifically if you want. And then the other one that was really cool, which is another relatively new approach, but it was playing octaves. I was sort of starting to get out in the weeds a bit here, because I really haven't seen anyone get into this stuff, but I was playing and trying to angle the slide, and I have to mute the other two. Sorry, I just can't see my camera. I've got to make sure I'm doing the right thing here. Yeah, I take these two fingers and I'll mute the third and fourth strings, and then I will play the fifth string with my pick and the second string with my second finger, and I'll try and. And then if I just move the whole grouping across, and you get the. That one, that the angle does start to change quite drastically as you go up the neck, so it really takes a lot of adjustment to keep it in tune. Yeah, it's a tricky one, because I mean, octaves, obviously, if you're the slightest bit out with an octave, then you're going to hear it straight away. So that's why a lot of times I'll try to cover that up a little bit with a lot of vibrato. So, you know, when in doubt, just. Yeah, vibrato is your friend sometimes, to just sort of cover up some indiscrepancies. But when you nail them, it's so satisfying. It's an incredibly satisfying thing. Where else did I go? Well, there was another one which was quite funny. This was sort of more of a bit of showbiz bling, this one, but I wanted to sort of get like the sound of a. So you get that. It's like a 13 sort of chord sound. So I just sort of would. Just sort of hold it like. But the cool thing is, you can get a sharp 9 chord now, because if we do, so you can get, yeah, you know what I mean. And a sharp 9 chord is quite dissonant anyway, so at least the dissonance of it helps. But it's there's some licks in there that are quite interesting. What else can I do? There's sometimes I can get. And like I said, it is usable, but I must admit it is a bit it's a bit of showbiz bling. So people just to give people something to look at, but why not? Bit
Awesome. I loved it. I don't mind a bit of bling now and then.
a bit of bling. You got to have a bit of bling, you know.
So Vincent asked, can you show some lines where you start fretted and finish with the slide? I think that's just a bigger topic anyway of how you're because you can go between slide and fingers pretty comfortably, right? That's something you do.
I yeah. Well, here's the cool thing. This is the coolest thing you'll hear on this whole live stream, and unfortunately, I didn't do it. I didn't invent it. But I was at a like a NAM show or something back in the late '90s in America, and the show had already ended, but people were still there, and they were kind of just winding up. And I walked past this petition, and on the other side of it was someone obviously playing slide guitar, and they were making the most incredible sound I'd ever heard in my life. And I walked around. Now the guy's name was Matt something, really nice guy, big guy with a beard. I can't remember his last name, unfortunately. But he'd been around the trade shows a lot. Like he was one of the main demonstrators and stuff like that. And he had this lovely reverb sort of sound going. And he was doing this. And this is just the greatest thing. You'll love this. I mean, is that the most awesome thing you've ever heard? I mean, I just stopped in my tracks and ran around the other side of the petition, and I said, "What are you doing? You know, tell me what you're doing." And he said, "Oh, it's Sonny Landreth." He said, "It's a Sonny Landreth trick." He said, "Go and buy the album Outward Bound." He said, "It's the first thing you hear. That's the first thing that opens the track." And so I said, "Well, that's it. Sonny's made a sale." I went straight out and bought Outward Bound, and in the process of listening to the album, I could tell something was going on, and I don't know whether Matt told me that day or if I just heard it on the album, but yeah, I was alerted to the fact that Sonny also used his other fingers as well as the slide, because Sonny wears his slide on his fourth finger, and I'm not sure what tuning he plays in. It might just be open E, but I mean the stuff he gets going with his other fingers is just. I mean, look, he's a master slide player. I mean, that is his bag. He is a absolute genius slide guitarist. So yeah, I always make sure whenever anyone asks about the slide and fingers stuff, I always say Sonny Landreth. It's you've got to cite your sources, and yeah, Sonny is absolutely the man for that. But yeah, it really helps in standard tuning. I love it a lot because it gives you access to some notes that would be a little awkward to grab sometimes. And so if you do, back to two cameras, if you, so you're playing like that. I guess the difference with me is because I wear it on the middle finger or not my fourth finger, I've got access to notes on either side. So that's the only slightly different thing, whereas Sonny only has access to notes below it. But I mean, he's already got so much going on. I don't think he misses it. So, but yeah, that's something you've got there. So because what you're doing is the slide is here, resting on that third string, say, and when you press down on the note, you're actually pushing the string under the slide. So now the fretted note comes into play. It's a little tougher because my action is lower than would be preferable for a proper slide player, but it works for the most part. So I use that a lot, like that sort of half step thing where I'll do fret the note behind the slide and then slide up to what would be that note, but slide up to it here. Because I just like the act. Then you've rather than just going. You almost can't tell it's slide, whereas once you go, you've reminded that he is actually playing slide guitar. But it's a great technique. I use it a lot where I might be just doing. I use that a lot too, where I'll hit the note, hammer the note on, and then slide. It's an incredible technique. Like I said, the minute anyone brings it up, I'm always Sonny Landreth. Go and watch the Master. And
Well, actually, on that topic, people have been asking if you can give us some recommendations on who to listen to and maybe some albums and things like that.
big time, Outward Bound by Sonny Landreth. But you know what? Get on YouTube and find some live footage of him playing, because that, back in the days when I was told about this, that didn't exist and we couldn't see it. And it's really incredible to actually see people doing this stuff. And there's so many great slide players. I mean, Derek Trucks is the first name that comes off the off the off the off the tongue. But well, Rory Gallagher. I love Rory Gallagher. Joe Walsh. I love Joe Walsh's playing in general, but his slide playing is just a thing of beauty because it's instantly recognisable as him, and yet he says so much with so little. It's like Joe is probably the most chilled guitar player on the planet, I would say. He's like the most minimalist player, and yet everything he plays is absolute gold. Richie Blackmore was a great slide player. A lot of Richie's greatest solos were slide solos, and a lot of people don't realise it. Like, he's a fantastic slide player. All standard tuning as well. And Ariel Posen,
Mm.
Ian, what's his name? From the guy from Big Wreck. You know the band Big Wreck?
No,
Ian
but I can look them
Thornley.
up.
Ian Thornley, I think.
Okay.
He's a fantastic slide player. And then Joey Landreth is I don't know. I don't think him and Sonny are actually related, but there's so many great slide players out there. We've got some fantastic ones here in Australia, like Kirk Lorange, and as I said, Danny Spencer, Jeff Lang, Shannon Bourne. Some really beautiful, beautiful slide players. I mean, it's such a great art form. I used to get the slide out when I was working at Musicians Institute and doing open counselings there for GIT, and I used to get the slide out all the time just because it was amazing how many guitar players would come in and they just wanted to learn like dexterous left hand stuff, and I get out the slide and it would just open them up to this new world that they'd never really thought about before. And it was great. It was always just really good to turn people onto it because it changed my life. I just loved it.
So the next question on that is, are there specific tunes or solos that you recommend people learn?
That's a great question. Because it's so long since I've actually learned someone else's solo. But a lot of, the Richie Blackmore stuff is great because it's all standard tuning, and Richie would generally sort of hover around on one string. There's a Richie Blackmore song, a Rainbow song called Starstruck, and the solo is it's just great. It's just is it in A? And then he does something at the end, really just beautiful melodic slide playing. But yeah, it's amazing how many solos Richie actually did on slide guitar that I wasn't even aware of at the time, and then sort of later became aware that he's a gun. But any Rory Gallagher stuff, and like the Derek Trucks is so unique and so fantastic, but the trouble is a lot of people just end up sounding like Derek Trucks. Like, you've got to be careful not to sort of end up aping somebody or sort of cloning them. I'm not a big fan of that at all. I think that's why I would look to great players for guidance and for inspiration, but I wouldn't necessarily sit down and try to learn what they were doing. So, not note for note, you know what I mean? That's why with all these techniques, I'm sort of like, look, this is the world that's at your disposal. Please show me what thoughts you have. Like, show me your inspirations and where you want to go with this, because it just never stops. Like, once you get into this, once you introduce the angling thing and all that sort of stuff, I mean, man, it'll keep you busy for years. I mean, you know, that, like I said, that behind the string stuff. I mean, I only just figured that out about a few months ago. I mean, I thought, wow, this is really great. Even at this ripe old age, I can still come up with something new and interesting to amuse myself. So, there it is.
Awesome. Vincent's asked if it was Matt Smith who was the
Matt
slide
Smith, I think that was right. Yeah, I think that was Matt Smith. Yes. So, big thanks to Matt Smith for turning me on to the great Sonny Landreth. Changed my life.
Nice. So, next question is Michael in New York has asked, can you talk about using slide for rhythm and comping as opposed to lead and solos?
Um, well, I suppose, yeah, like in terms of like doing a sort of a like that sort of vibe, you know, like essentially like you'd be you'd be sort of playing regular things. You might play comping wise, but just playing them with the slide, and once again trying to let people know that you are actually playing slide, because otherwise, what's the point? So, sort of using it in that effect, like where you might be going instead of playing. So you'd want to go. It's a little. That's where the open tunings are fantastic for comping behind people. So you just got to. I'd probably use a lot of the slide and fingers stuff, like I sort of did there, where I'd be doing. That's sort of how I'd approach it, where I'd be trying to just basically play a rhythm part, but just using the slide to do it.
Nice. Great. Next question is from Robert. What about pentatonic scales with the slide?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, there's a section in the book. I'm glad someone brought that up. There's so much going on in that book. I can barely remember what we covered in it. Um, I didn't know what to call it, but I called it adjacent intervals, and I was trying to come up with a name for it, because it was this particular slide approach actually really helped inform my regular playing in a way. And what it was looking at things like pentatonics, and it was playing. If you play, so we're in A minor pentatonic, and I'd look at, say, that, and I go, well, where's the next adjacent interval that I need? And it's. Now, by the time I've got to there's not another pentatonic interval directly there, but I can play the second. So now I'm back to the minor third again. So I can go. I really dug that. I use that a lot now. Like, I will play notes outside of the pentatonic, I might play like a lot of major seconds as well as the pentatonic. I sort of talk to people about that, where if you want to keep that pentatonic sound of, I'll say if you don't want to get in the way of that by putting in a six, like either a major or minor six, which will give it either a Aeolian or Dorian sound, you can just chuck in the two. So and when you apply that to the slide, you get this other extra note you can use. But yeah, just that's a really cool thing. But the with the pentatonics, like looking at it crossways, this is the Frank Gambale influence coming in, I think, where Frank was so amazing at doing that whole. And that's cool. That's cool sort of a lick to do. All those sort of angles like that. Intonation's a bit tough to get. But I really invest a lot of time in that particular technique because I really dig it. I use it a lot in solos. It's something you'll hear a lot. In fact, I think I did a thing for Guitar Techniques magazine a while back that's you could probably find on YouTube, and it was all around that particular technique. So yeah, it's that kind of opened up a lot of doors for me, and it helped me manage playing pentatonic intervals, like just when I take the slide off, and I get a lot of that sort of. I sort of find a lot of that stuff. Bit of, that a lot of that sliding around, it gives you a more of an Eric Johnson-y sort of sound, which is always a good thing.
So in there, I think were you doing some like pull-offs and hammer-ons like to the open A string from the slide?
Oh, do you mean like hammering on with it, or?
Yeah, and pulling off from it. Or you were kind of like releasing it, taking it away from the string and letting the open.
Yeah, that's something I talked about a lot too, because there's so much energy in the string when you've got the slide on it that by the time if you just take it off, like the string just wants to scream. So I mean, if you go, there's so much energy there, you just release it, just take it away. There's so much energy in that open string that when you touch the slide, as opposed to your fingers, which will sort of want to dampen it because it's the flesh of your hand, because you're putting this hard surface on it. Oh, it just wants to keep going. That's why I was saying about the gain stage. You don't really need a ton of gain when you're playing slide, but you can get some really fun effects going on. It's that was just either. It almost sounds like finger tapping, doesn't it, in a way? And I try to do the Satriani sort of. It's a it's a tough one to do, but it's really good fun. I mean, there's so many creative and interesting things you can get going once you get this thing on your fingers. It's just a nice way to reach beyond standard standard blues stuff. You know, one of my favourite slide players. I can't possibly do this without mentioning David Lindley. And whenever I play slide, and especially when I do a vibrato, I've kind of got David Lindley in my head. And I loved all the stuff he played with when he was in Jackson Browne's band because it wasn't blues; it was pop music, and he was he was just playing such lyrical stuff. It was like another singer in the band. There's a Jimmy Barnes song called "Driving Wheels." You might be able to find it on YouTube. And David Lindley played slide on it, and he does the intro to it. And the first thing you hear is David's slide guitar. And I'll guarantee it's probably like he was probably warming up and they just recorded it. And it's one of the greatest things. So yeah, if I can recommend that recording. So Driving Wheels by Jimmy Barnes and David Lindley. Anything by David Lindley playing slide. Running on Empty by Jackson Browne, the live version. And yeah, what a beautiful slide player.
Awesome. The Someone's just asked a question kind of on that on hammer-ons and pull-ups, but I'm not sure if this is something you do. They've asked if you can demo like the hammer-ons and pull-ups in the Delta kind of tradition. Is that the Delta blues tradition? Is that something you do?
I suppose, like, if I was going to simulate that, I think what they mean, they can chime in and correct me if I'm wrong, but they mean like the whole. That sort of sound, like it. Yeah, it's just once again that works great in an open tuning, but because you got more, you can use all of the strings then and do that exact same thing, like, but right across the guitar in an open tuning. But that's a way to simulate it, at least get the vibe while you're in standard. Is just work around those fourths. And if you're in G major, of course. So you can sort of work around it like that. I think that's what they were getting at. So I hope I got that right.
Yeah, I think so. So someone's asked, do you play slide on acoustic guitar as well? I think we kind of touched on that.
Yeah. That's where if I do it on acoustic, I'll use brass because I think it sustains better. And I just found the glass is a bit dull on acoustic. That might be just me. I don't know, but perhaps I'm just a bit dull on acoustic. but yeah, I've always found that brass sounds great on acoustic guitars.
Wicked. And then Michael's asked any right hand or picking tips when playing slide, especially any picking you do differently when using a slide. So I think we've touched on this a bit, but maybe you could go over that.
To be honest, no. I think that's kind of where the hybrid picking thing really did come in handy for me because it's so relatable to slide. It's very rare you'll see someone playing slide where it's all alternate picked, or just the pick. They'll either be no pick at all, and they're very tactile with their right hand, or in my case, it's like the pick and fingers, and it's essential. It's right in there. Like if you see if I'm all these fingers and the heel are involved all the time because of that muting thing, like that. So they're quiet. So because I'm. And I love that. I love that sound where you get that. It's like a rake across the strings, but you only hear the last note. You only hear the one note, but you pluck about four strings, and you get this big front on the note. It's like when you hear people play a regular note with the pick, and they go, puts this huge front on the note as opposed to just going, because you get all of that right in the front of it. And I really enjoy that. So you're sort of flicking the strings with your right hand, but you only ever hear the last note. I hear this. Derek Trucks does this thing where he sort of hits the strings, almost like all the open strings, and then plays the note. And I wonder if that's his way of simulating a singer inhaling before they exhale and sing the note. If I ever meet him, I'd love to ask him about that. So I actually did jam with Derek Trucks when he was 15. So.
I think, yeah, you've mentioned that story before, weren't you? You and TJ, were you lending
Yeah,
him
yeah.
amps or something, or backing him?
We were doing a NAMM show thing, and we asked the Hughes and Kettner people if they had a show we could play at with our band, and they said, well, we don't, but Washburn have a big show, and they said they need someone to back this young guitar player named Derek Trucks, and would you guys do that? And we said, yeah, we'd love to. And the minute I heard his name, I thought he's got to be related to Butch Trucks from the Allman Brothers, because I'm such an Allman Brothers fan. So, yeah, we met Derek and his dad at the show, and Derek was really shy. He kind of just said hi, and that was it. But his father was great. I had a lovely chat with him, and yeah, Derek got up and jammed some tunes, and I mean, he was really great, but he wasn't what we knew him to be. Now, so this was like 1995, I think, 94, 95. So he was 15. And then 10 years later, I was back at Musicians Institute doing some stuff, just some teaching. And I noticed on the wall, they said tonight in the big room is the Derek Trucks band. And I thought, oh, great, I'll get to go and hear this guy play again. And that was like a religious experience. He was full-blown Derek Trucks as we know him now. And yeah, I walked out of there like a changed person. I thought, damn, that was probably what it was like to see Hendrix play for the first time. It was remarkable. Yeah, just beautiful.
Right.
Because
I
back when he was
think,
younger, like he was sort of just finding his way, and he was sort of basically doing the Dwayne Allman thing, I think. And then yeah, to hear him 10 years later, I went, oh my god, that's a transformation right there. It was phenomenal. Yeah.
awesome. I'm just looking through some of these questions. We're coming to the end of our time, so if anyone has any last few questions to get in, Brett, can you tell us a little bit more about the book, everything? So it's we'll be sending out the links by email to everyone who's signed up. Could you tell us a little bit more about there's some demo solos and the kind of stuff you've got in there?
Yeah, I think there's at least four demo solos, and the backing tracks are included. So if you want to play along to those, or just jam to the tracks in general, they're there. And that E drone note is also included, because I think that's such a wonderful practice tool to have, where it's a constant just pitch, so you can work your way through that and just work on your intonation. And it's something I should be doing every day. Look, slide playing is like singing. It's an internalized sort of sense of pitch. You can't rely on the frets to show you where the pitch is. You've got to hear it, find it, adjust if you're out of tune, and constantly be doing that. So, like singing, if you don't do it a lot, it tends to fade away. That's the first. If I don't play a lot of slide, the first thing that happens is my intonation starts to go. That's really where it's at. So, but then if I do play a lot of slide, it comes back really fast, and that's a great feeling. But yeah, the book goes through all this stuff. It starts at the beginning with muting, and intonation and all that sort of stuff, and those basic triads in standard tuning. And then we start to get into the angling stuff, and then there's the really fun stuff like the harmonica impersonation and the pedal steel stuff as well. So I think I tried to cover everything I could possibly think of relating to every idea I've ever had with slide guitar. So even like I said with the bending behind the slide stuff, a relatively new thing for me, but I thought, well, if I put it in there and someone starts off by looking at that as a possibility, who knows what they'll end up doing with it. Could be quite amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but because of all the tricky stuff you do with your right hand, going from pick to the hybrid picking stuff, we had to develop a special like Guitar Pro template just for you, so that the files don't get too messy because sometimes pick strokes are above and then the PIMAC is in the text. So
Oh, well.
we've put an extra care to making sure it looks beautiful. We've got
Oh,
one
thank
last
you.
question from
Thank you for
Vincent, which
doing
is,
that.
have you ever tried to emulate horn parts with slide?
No, not horn parts, but like I said, harmonicas definitely. Like blues harp. I really enjoyed getting into that. That all happened because I during the pandemic lockdowns, I was stuck for something to do, and I decided I was actually playing one of my old guitars up here on the wall, and I had it tuned to. It was in D, but it was like an open E type tuning, so it was basically open E down a whole step. And I was trying to just play like traditional slide blues slide. I was just looking at that, doing that sort of stuff, and and I started just sort of doing that sort of vibe. And without even realizing, I just started singing "Walk on Hot Coals" by Rory Gallagher, and I thought, oh, this would be kind of cool. I could do a version of "Walk on Hot Coals" like this. And so I ended up recording it, and I had a drum kit set up, so I played drums and played bass. It was quite funny. I had a split screen with me doing all the stuff, and then it got to the guitar solo, and I thought, well, okay, well, I'll try a regular Rory solo. So I tried doing that, and that didn't work. That didn't fit the song at all. Then I tried doing a slide solo, and that didn't work. A regular slide solo, and I thought, what would Rory do? And I thought, I know what Rory would do. He would do a kick-ass harmonica solo because he was a great harmonica solo player, and I can't play harmonica. So I thought, can I copy it on the guitar? And that's what I ended up doing. And so I started, sort of doing things like trying to sort of get that sort of sound. Harmonica players tend to have a slightly faster vibrato. I thought that sort of so that was a challenge for me to sort of get that. A lot of those flat fives and the flat twos. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't really I haven't tried to emulate a horn part. Trombone, you probably couldn't you? Like those big long slides and things like that. So, but maybe I'll give it a look.
So someone's asked before we go, can you tell us a bit about that guitar and who made it and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, this is a Sydney-based luthier named Charles Cillier, and Charles is a great guitar player in and of himself, and he makes the most beautiful guitars. And a good friend of mine, Michael Dolce, has been playing Charles's guitars for a long time. So that's how I knew about him, and it's how I eventually met Charles when I go up to Sydney. And he's just such a great person. And he was saying for years, he was saying, I'm gonna build you a guitar, and because I always wanted to buy one, but I just couldn't sort of justify the cost. I think my wife would have yelled at me. I don't know, but and in the end, Charles said, "No, no, no, I'm just going to build you one. You've got to have one." And so we talked about it for a long time, and I talked about all the guitars that I've owned, and obviously my old Strat, which is sort of hiding back there behind me, the blue ESP, which is hanging up there, which you can just see the bottom of it, and and so it's sort of, and then even the Steinberger, which is hanging up on the wall there, it embodies all those sort of things. So it's 24 frets, um, and everyone says, oh, it looks like the ESP, and it's, I can't help it. I just love blue guitars, so I decided to go blue again. But I went with the two humbuckers, and you can split those. You got the out of phase down the back here, and in the front out of phase position, it's not out of phase. It just makes this one single coil. So you've got that sort of option as well, and uh, just standard Callahan bridge, and just and eventually it's going to have the he's making another neck for me because he had to do that. It's going to have the Steinberger tuners on it, which are the really revolutionary tuners that Ned Steinberger developed for the GS model Steinberger that had the headstock. And yeah, so that's gonna it's gonna, it embodies like all the things I loved about all these guitars I've played over the years. And I have to say, like, without a word of a lie, like, since he gave it to me, I haven't put it down. I just love this thing. It feels so at home. I'm kind of that person, you know, like, I get onto a guitar, and I always loved Angus Young, always with that SG, and I love Brian May with the red special, and Rory with the old Strat. I really love it when I see guitar players that just play that one, and Eddie with the Frankenstrat. You know, that sort of thing. It's like, rather than they take 30 guitars out and they play different one on. I know why you would do that too, for different sounds, but I really do also love the fact that the guitar becomes so personal that every time you pick it up, you just feel at home. So I'm really glad to say this guitar feels exactly like that to me now.
Wonderful. I
And
think
I
that was
and
the
I
end
will
of us.
say, with the Australian dollar is quite appealing to anyone spending euros or US dollars. So if you want to get a really beautiful guitar at what for you would be a reduced price, you should talk to Charles Cillier.
Nice. So thank you all for tuning in. Brett's new book will be out Thursday or Friday. He also has a legato book and a hybrid picking book, which both are like bestsellers, doing really, really well. Hybrid picking books got, I must have tons of reviews by now, like loads of 5-star reviews. So that one's doing incredibly. Thank you to everyone who's checked those out. Um, Brett, anything else we need to look out for? Any music coming out or any updates?
I just have to give a big shout out to my mate Rick Fiorabracci. I can see Legalized Shemp down there in the down there in the thing. I didn't realise Rick was on. How are you, brother? Yeah, Rick's one of my greatest musical heroes that I was lucky enough to play with for many years in America, and he's produced and mixed my two albums. So I owe him more than I could possibly ever repay. But yeah, I've been doing some really fun stuff with great drummer and Jerry Pantazis and Craig Newman, fantastic bass player that I've known those guys for decades, and we've been doing some just cover tunes, vocal stuff, and where I just set up the mic and the guitar and do a live take of some cover tunes, and we're just having a lot of fun. So I'm putting them up on my YouTube channel and we're just having a ball doing that. So that's about it, really. I'm just trying to stay inspired and keep playing, and I'm just so excited to be doing these books for Guitar Vivo, because especially this slide one, it's such a personal thing for me. It's been such a personal journey, and a lot of these techniques that I do, people tend to they tend to get overlooked because people are focused on the shredding stuff that I'm known for years, and it's a shame my slide playing, I always felt like it kind of got pushed away under the rug, and I'm hoping that the book will expose a lot of those ideas to up and coming players, and I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Me too. And Brett, it's always an absolute honor to have you be one of our artists and authors and educators. So thank you so much. Um, if you can you play us out a little bit, do a couple of solos, and after a little while, I'll end the call.
All right, I'll do the. They're only quite short pieces, but I'll do the guitar monica thing. That'll be fun. Where is it? Bit of blues sort of thing. Yeah. All right.